can record it on this computer actually, and then I'll put it straight onto unlisted YouTube after.
Brilliant.
Okay,
Brilliant,
so
brilliant. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Paul. So I put this deck together to kind of save a bit of time for Paul on this week. Friday, it is Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, it
to
is.
send something back to Ben and the team based on our
hang on.
conversation.
Wristwatch check-in. Just for Paul. Longines Master Collection.
It also indicates that you're 22 minutes late for your meeting. That's what I like about the time check, is it kind of gives you context. And all you need now is a newspaper next to that, and then we can pretty much date everything, can't we?
Just need to hold the newspaper. Oh, yeah, read the date.
Paul, today's newspaper and my watch. Okay, so yeah, so part of it is I thought, okay, let's get them something we could send to them. Now, obviously, I think Paul's one would be a lot simpler than mine, but what I decided to go for is what I always go for, which is style over substance. And the reason why is because they're a marketing firm, so they probably look at it and go, "Oh, I've seen this format before," but still, I'll give it a go.
Yeah,
so I kind of wanted to kind of talk to them in three separate, distinct swim lanes, right? So top swim lane, which no, I'm never going to give up on, is this kind of information technology is dead. Long live business and technology. Bring them together, like product engineering, bring them together and business technology will become a thing. Of course, there's universities which teach business technology degrees, so it is a thing.
Well, I remember, what did they have? I mean, Christ, we're going back 25, nearly 30 years ago. We're talking business information technology. They used to be bit classes. Yes, bit. Yeah,
I did a bit course as well. But, part of it is BT owns everything. And BT is no longer just in the UK. Like, literally, the guys in Italy go, oh, yeah, our BT line's not working. I'm thinking, how come that's not in Milan? And, part of it is it's known as an acronym. IT is known as a very thing, IT crowd.
Yeah.
They're not going to call it the BT crowd, are they? Because people are going to think there's a whole stack of telephone engineers. So, unfortunately, BT is massively underrated. And I think, part of it is, the reason is you're never going to be able to get anything on Google because you're going to type in BT sucks as a methodology. And then it's just going to come up with BT, we hate you, which is probably the first defense, right? But on a way, it's a benefit. But anyway, so, I still have this viewpoint of business technology, right? And part of it is, I think at the end, which you kind of got cut off on and had to leave, at the end, one of the things that we managed to kind of say to them was, when we're talking about business technology, they were kind of we weren't talking about business technology, but we're talking this higher level kind of landscape. What we're talking about is the skills gap, which is a soft skills. And when I say soft skills, I don't mean Microsoft Excel. I mean soft leadership, kind of fluffy skills that everyone's missing. So I refer to them as cognitive skills because everyone last year and the year before all talked about the cognitive skill gap.
It's a good term. It's a good umbrella term.
And it makes sense. It's what are those cognitive skills that you need to actually be able to be successful in business? And the thing is, what you get, and this is what we got, so WYSIWYG, Oxbridge candidates, when I was at Grid Tools, the greatest guy who we had there, first in maths from Oxford, smartest person you've ever known, 22. Where do you think he is on the spectrum, right?
He's
as high as you possibly can get. He's, you can't put him in front of people because he's just not, as you'd expect by somebody who got a first in maths. They weren't going out, meeting all the girls, having fun. They literally was in a dorm, locked up, geeking out over maths. And therefore that persona really doesn't work in this new reality, right? Because what you find, which is kind of what happened with him, is that they self-isolate. They don't want to turn on their camera. They don't want to chat to people. They can't articulate these things. And also, if you ever speak to him, he always puts everybody down as a lesser mortal on the call, just to show how smart he is, which is great, but it doesn't make for good business. So therefore you can't have those people on there. Now the second thing, which Paul will enjoy, is if you type in grid tools and Oxford and Core, you'll also find that same guy was arrested for paedophilia at 22, and he had a girlfriend since 16, and he was arrested, and I had to hand over the laptop to the police, which was a grid tools laptop, because he was distributing child pornography. So point is, part of greatness also comes a whole stack of baggage, right? And this is where I think we've got a problem, is we've gone for the good guys, right? And unfortunately, in the process of getting those super smart IT guys, we've also got the IT crowd. We've got a whole stack of people who are not allowed to ever physically interact with anybody.
Yeah.
So we've got an issue, right? So what we're trying to say is we can't solve those. Now, my gamification guild, what I've got this afternoon for 3 hours of my life.
Yeah.
The guy who's talking on there, which I kind of showed before, he does NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, for getting people into the top tier banks, right? So part of him is he kind of says, if you want to be at Morgan Stanley or you want to be in the elite, then you need to have this persona, which is extrovert, but they blueprint it out to the perfect candidate, right? And of course, those candidates take 15, 20 interviews to make sure that they're the right person. Somebody with a first at Oxford or Oxbridge is not going to be able to make it through into that investment banking landscape, because they want a particular kind of person, someone who does really well in teams, someone who really contributes, who's a team player, who's not selfish, all these things that unfortunately people aren't. So part of what we're trying to say with this professional development side of things, and also what this guy's building his stuff, is kind of saying, if I enter IT, and I'm going to take 3 use cases here. First use case is I'm an Indian SI, right? And I'm an Indian SI, and I've learned the hard way, in the sense that I've joined Wipro giving me some basic skills that I need. I get onto calls with my pidgin English. I have very limited understanding of what's going on. I agree with a lot of what's been said and commit to it because I don't really understand the context. It's very difficult for me to say no or ask questions because of the language barrier. I'm having a real challenge just operating every day with my whether it be whatever country they've decided to sell me out to, and I'm renowned for learning on the job. And then a couple of years, 5, 10, 15 years later, Mr. or Mrs. Wipro is brilliant, right? She's understands everything, captures it all down, actions it correctly, low cost, very high efficiency, but also renowned for moving those people into other firefighting situations. So therefore you don't get the same, caliber all the way through, but you get a blended rate. So they'll give you $200 and they'll give you the utter crap and also a couple of good people. So the point is, as far as someone like Wayne, who was the founder of Parasoft, says, the final frontier is the system integrators, the global system integrators, because they're going to die, or people are out to gun for them because they don't work, right? They don't add value. This kind of concept with IT, offshoring, and BT going, hi, I'm Bill from India. Part of it isn't built from India. It is a refined factory model, which just does not work, right? Can't think on its feet, etc., etc. The second one is somebody who comes as a graduate, right? They've been given the base skills. They understand they've got the capability to learn, but they have no context. They have no domain experience. They don't have 10 years in.
They haven't got the situational awareness.
Yeah, and they literally, if you walk them into a Lehman Brothers, again, they would be thrown out, right? Because they don't have that experience that's going to allow them to be effective. So again, part of it is you've either got the business domain skills, so you may be that third personality, which is somebody who worked at Nationwide, like my sister, all her life as a trainer or team leader, understands all the systems backwards, knows how the AXA platform works versus the other healthcare platform works and knows how to train people on it, has the business domain skills, but doesn't have anything else, right? They don't have the academia, they don't have the technology exposure, they just have the business exposure. So each one of these items is a balancing act, of which we're always throwing them off. Someone like myself, great in a technology evangelist position, cognitive skills maybe a bit lacking, domain skills are very low because I've worked at more companies than I can shake a thing at. Leadership skills, not really, because I don't really give a shit about people. So, you know, part of it is everyone's on this balance.
Yeah.
And what we're saying to them is, by signing up to the Institute of Business, Technology and Leadership, we will help bridge the chasm where your skills are missing. Now, this could be through a number of different channels. This could be through skills. This could be, you know, accredited training, which we can accredit ourselves because we're an institution, like Paul's course, right? Where he literally does a course on a new model for testing, or a new model for agile, or a new model for DevOps, right? You know, part of it is we can give them some foundational skills and also kind of tailor their Udemy kind of hit list of, you know, don't just do Python, do, you know, data science first, then eventually get down to the coding thing. That's not the place to start. Not the coding, is actually understanding the context behind it. And oh, wait a second, if you're thinking about data science in healthcare, then you need a healthcare background. So therefore, you need to sit these kind of accreditations with these other institutions that sit in the healthcare space. So part of it is we're bridging that gap, believing that we're not just one institution to rule them all. We work with other institutions in other course providers to tailor what you should be going after and give you something to really help your professional development. And what that costs you is very minimal. It gives you, I don't know, $200 a year entry level, which gives you a bit of access to a mentor. It gives you access to other global industry leaders who you can speak to and ask questions, but only to a limited amount. And then you've got the whole hog where you're realizing you're massively missing on this and you want a lot more. You want access to NLP, you want access to coaching on from Giles, you want, you know, part of industry forums around healthcare. All that becomes part of this very high level, million mile above everything else, and it avoids us being micro focused into agile
channel. Or a niche channel. 100%.
So part of what we're doing as the sale to them is to say, well, actually, you've already started this journey anyway. You've got the QA lead, you've got people managing people, but also HR, which is a kind of an unsung hero. You've got e-commerce or kind of thing, which I guess is more CMS than anything else. You've got project management. You've got a lot more focus of project management. You could also have the agile lead. You could also have even,
this is what they've got today.
This is what they've got today.
Wow.
But they, you know, part of it is there's gaps, right? The gap is agile. The gap is maybe the testing lead, you know, the you know, the developer lead, you know, part of it is there's also
DevOps. As a cultural thing.
Absolutely. Go and register that. I'll register that domain afterwards. But anyway, so part of it, all those different bits that they, you know, part of it is they can then filter from something like this to say, actually, you're a project manager or you're a business analyst. You should be part of the Business Analyst Guild. Okay. How much is that? Well, that's, you know, just $200. You know, your subscription, you go in there, you've got like a lot of people where you can just chat with other people on Slack. You can exchange ideas. You can be part of the guild, which they have every month, which we host or something to put the best of questions in. Blogs are created, more knowledge base is created. And, you know, the last kind of frontier bit, which I kind of dangle, is this, well, how do you become a thought leader in your area? Because a lot of people, you know, and I know Michael Bolton yesterday gave a kick into some poor Indian guy who posted onto LinkedIn and you know, was trying to obviously make a name for himself. And then, you know, he replied to one of the chains and just blasted the poor guy out of which is what he does. He just picks on people. But, you know, part of it is, well, how do you become a recognized technologist or a recognized leader? Well, of course, you know, you can publish material. That was the old way of doing things, into journals and all sorts of stuff. But what is it now? You know, you write yourself a blog. Does that mean you're suddenly, you know, a thought leader in the space? You speak at
an author in that space.
Yeah, you know, and that's the whole thing, is you kind of just, people have got this, and then you've got the high level people like James Whittaker and stuff, who've got books out about things like the cognitive skills gap and all these kind of other stuff. And then his famous kind of quote is, you know, fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
Before you become a globally recognized industry leader. Now, part of it is the fake it to before you make it approach may work for some people, but it won't work for everybody. Whereas being recognized, so what gives you the right to say that you're, you know, where you are in your career? Well, you know, I'm part of this agile group. I'm also part of this other agile group, but I'm also, you know, working on these things. I've got a podcast, I've got blogs, I've got thought leadership in the space. I'm giving back to the industry. All this kind of stuff wraps around and suddenly gives you points, which you use to be, you know, get higher accreditation. Of course, in the old days, if you wanted to become a certified engineer, you would have to have someone sponsor you at the IEE or BCS and then go through a whole stack of exams to prove that you know something to do with engineering before you get a CEng afterwards. We're more than happy to give someone an IBTL after their name for nothing, or a BTL, which sounds like a nice sandwich.
I was about to say,
IBTL's in the kind of iPod
bacon,
kind of way.
Bacon, tomato, and lettuce, yeah.
So, you know, part of it is we're happy to give those letters, because letters after your name don't mean anything, right? But part is, as an institution, people like myself, when I started my career, wanted to collect those, like you did with the Institute of Analysts and Programmers. We wanted them, even though you're not an analyst or a programmer. And when they say analyst, is because analyst is something completely different to what we think an analyst is, in the sense of it could be a business analyst, or it could be an analyst who, you know, works for Forrester. So there's extremes to each side, and there's no real confirmation. So part of this is there's a high level thing. We know we can't drop this into black and white zebra tomorrow because it takes too much, but it's part of a roadmap of how they bring their products together and
how
allow a funnel to come down to push a holding panel to push things down. And of course, we would have a technology leadership summit once a year, which would be a big flagship event, and everybody would want to go to it, and we'd make money out of it. Brilliant. But in the meantime, there is also something which is a smaller level than the Technology Leadership Summit. There's the Technology Leadership Forum. Now, this is a physical event, something that's been running for 15 years, established, right? Run 63 events, 11,000 people on LinkedIn, 6,000 mailing list, over 4,000 participants, has the history, has a website which Paul's put together using Wix, because he's used most of the backgrounds that I used on all my other websites. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is established, right? It's a TLF, right? It's another nice abbreviation, and it supports physical events, right? And that gives us the, you know, quarterly kind of smaller scale stuff. And then every year, which is what, you know, which is what Unicom do, is they always go for the big summit event anyway. So part of it is there's been physical events. It's got the track record.
I'm there now.
Who's there now?
Me. I'm there at the whole thing. Here we are.
TechnologyLeadershipForum.com, the longest domain name in the world. Yeah, you put it on a business card, but you have to give them 2 business cards and hold it together.
I'm going to move it over to that screen there, and done. Yes, good. I got it. Lots of clapping going on. We've got some very happy people.
Internal meeting with DBA.
There we go. Now, the funniest thing was I put in Technology Leadership Forum in Google, and the second thing I got was something about Bermuda.
Technology Leadership Forum?
Yeah, Technology Leadership Forum, and the second link in Google was the Technology Leader Forum in Bermuda. TLF Bermuda. And there's partnerships, the £10,000 gold partnership, the £5,000 silver partnership, and the £2,500 bronze partnership. Holy crap. Deloitte are a sponsor, AXA are a sponsor, Liberty are a sponsor. Wow, Christ.
So, but I think the thing is, loads of people have got, you know, I've got on this technology leadership thing. There's millions of tech leaders,
yeah, 100%,
and stuff like 100%. That. And I think it's, in all fairness, because there's so many of them, it becomes a, you know, it becomes an entity. You know, I always get worried when, so business, for instance, Forbes has a technology leadership team, right? And if you get invited to the technology leadership team on Forbes, you know you've made it, right? But at the same time, just because Forbes does it doesn't mean it's a copyrighted task, right? Correct. Which is why I think we benefit from the technology leadership forum. Now, the second item is, which I've put in the wrong order, but here is then the Technology Leadership Summit, right? Brilliant. Which is your flagship event, brilliant, which you run once a year over 24 hours. And I say 24 hours because we did 4 days of 6 hours. But yes. You know, part of it is, it could be, you know, it could be small, it could be 2 days, it could be 4 days, it could be whatever, right? Yeah. You know, part of this flagship event, we can run and organize and you know, coordinate virtual conference as a service, right? And I think our base costs, which is the kind of the estimates that we did within the Vivid community, is about 12K, right? Right. So that would be 12K split 3 ways, right? To cover our base expense of being the chair and also doing all the committee and lead up and execution of it, right? And platforms and stuff like that. So, you know, it isn't a lot of money, 4K or whatever it is. But the whole point is that that is our base cost. So, you know, if they want to run it, that's what it costs, and we'll do it. Now, of course, that has to be offset by sponsor stuff, right? So the idea is, if we bring 5 sponsors to it, then, you know, we've got 2 choices. We'll do what they do with Bucks, you know, is they'll give us the 12K, but then they'll take 12K out of the pot to offset the 12K based on the sponsors, and then whatever's left in goes 50-50, or it goes 90-10, or whatever we negotiate, right? Yeah. But then it becomes, we get our 4K plus you get whatever on top. So if we bring, you know, for every vendor we bring, so if I bring Eggplant, which I could do, you know, they're going to spend $9,000. You know, it only takes 2 sponsors to cover the base costs. Yeah. Once we've gone out of the 2 $9,000 ones, suddenly, you know, I get an extra grand for bringing in another sponsor, right? And that seems worthwhile for us to bring together. Yeah. And then, of course, the community does as well, because they're going to have a mailing list. We've got mailing lists. You've got mailing lists. Paul's got mailing lists. Yeah. So that 4K kind of covers our kind of push towards those. Yes. Now, that is, again, you know, part of our kind of commitment to a larger event, which is more success. And yes, this may be July, August, September next year, but this is what we're leading up to, is a sizable event. We know we can't do it for this one-off event, but we can do it in long term to do a bigger event, right?
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. The planning and that the just the logistics behind it, even in that virtual world, still requires a lot of upfront thought and discussion, planning. Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, it's a reasonable amount, and I think, you know, it gives them an idea. And of course, a physical event, you know, it might be only a 1K, right? It might be 1K, which they get back off sponsors, and that covers the Ball Brothers event location, right? But, you know, part of it is, we're not going to be seeing physical events for a while. So let's think about what we could do time boxed into February, right?
Yep.
So the signing of the digitalmanifesto.com, right, which is going to be a historical event, and is going to replicate or exactly what happened 20 years ago, right, is some 17 thought leaders, apparently, you know, met between
17 in Snowbird, Utah. In the they all were in the ski lodge for 3 days.
Skiing.
I've read enough on the history of it.
Yeah, well, my business partner owns a lodge in Switzerland, so if we had to go out on the 11th to the 13th to his place in Switzerland, we'll do that. If that what it takes to get that extra credibility is to be able to ski and write a manifesto, then we can do that live, right? That isn't a problem. But you know, part of this ski lodge stuff is that yes, 20 years ago, 17 people who were kind of in the industry at the time met, went skiing, got drunk, wrote a agile manifesto that for some unknown reason people listen to, right? And so what we're saying is, well, what's wrong with us doing this, right? You know, we're going to do a historical event where we are opening it up to the community. We're not going to not let anyone in apart from maybe Michael Bolton because he's a twat, but everybody else, you know, is welcome to attend, right? If you're a Mr. Dave Snowden, you want to come along and you want to bitch about what's wrong with the Agile Manifesto, fine. If you want to be at Giles and you want to be positive about what good has come out of the Agile Manifesto, fine, right?
Yeah.
Everyone could come around. It's a round table event, invite only for the round table. So if you become one of those 12 seats, which or 20 or 17 seats, which will be around the Verbella table, right? Then that's great. Now, if you want to be part of signing the charter, like that the website has, is just those 17 people's name. If you want to be there and you want to have a chance to make history, which only happens every 20 years, then you can come along. We might not charge anything for it. We might, if you want to be, you know, a signatory, say, we'll expect a donation of $99 plus postage and packaging. But otherwise, you know, part of it is it's a free event to see what kind of traction we can get. Now, what's the point of it? Well, the first point of it is it makes a whole stack of social media gold. And the reason why is because 20 years later from this signing of some people going skiing, not only has started Dave Snowden's quote, not mine, a cult, but, you know, part of it is it also has spawned so much media on the internet that actually that space could be used for things that are more useful, like porn. So part of it is, you know, what we're trying to say is that there's no reason why we can't do this. And the date fits nicely. Half a day. I could organize this by next week, right?
It's I get that. Yeah,
100%. So why is it so important? Well, you know what I think we do is we do it, run it as a peer conference, right? And if you type in digital-manifesto.com, what you will go to with my great redirection skills this morning is the Digital Manifesto book, which if you look at it, was published in 2016. So it's not me just jumping on the bandwagon. This is 4 years ago, Jonathan. Now, I'm hoping it redirects. I only did it this morning, digitalmanifesto.com. It does. And it goes to leanpub.com/digital.
Yes.
Which no one else can get that on because that's as short as you possibly can. Now, as you can see by the thing, it says it's free. And so what we do is we jump on what my good friend Around the World in 80 Testers did this year with a much shittier URL at the end, is what we do is we say, we're going to create a book, which we're going to publish for free. Everyone can access it.
Yes.
And not pay a penny, but they also can contribute to it. So wherever you are around the world, you can put your name on the map for $99. And therefore be part and recognized as a thought leader for the Digital Manifesto. And there's Mr. Michael Bolton.
There he is.
What a wank stain in Canada, right? So part of it is whoever wants to come in here, they'll get stuck onto this lovely map to show that they were part of the Digital Manifesto 2021. So what happens at this event? Well, the idea is we take what we've already got, which some poor bastard wrote in 2016, And then we challenge those principles, right? Which is, what are the things that we think we need to change in the industry, and maybe how do we evolve it? And the first thing we kind of bring up is we say the non-agile manifesto has to be agile. It can't not be updated in 20 years, because then it's just legacy heritage stuff, right? It's good if you're going to put it on a world heritage site, but otherwise it has to be agile. Manifesto has to be agile. It has to change. How does it change? Well, people contribute to the book, the guide, the handbook, whatever you want to call it. They contributed to it. It becomes a free artifact, and it evolves over time. And there'll be 6 or 17, whatever the amount of people turn up.
Yeah,
we'll all be co-authors of that book, and we'll be able to edit it, amend it, etc. Right now, 4 years ago, I decided to come up with this shit on the left-hand side, and that was because I wanted to draw this diagram, what looked like a vagina. Now, the reason why I did that diagram is I took what Paul had done 4 years ago, and I obviously did a TED talk about it. I did the think, make, check, the evolution over revolution approach, where the design methodology and then the real product then feeds back in. So it's a continuous iteration, not a process that's linear, right? Which is maybe called agile or whatever it is, right? But I also, back in the day, which is why that vagina looks like it is, I broke down each one of those segments. I broke down the thinking segment to researching, experimenting, and whatever else that word was. But I've got a whole methodology that I built behind it. And part of the reason that I did that was, we're all very good at identifying a particular component of that. So in our case, the making, the develop, deploy, and learn kind of aspects. The point of it is, if you're doing DevOps, you're very much focused on the making section. If you're an agile coach, for instance, you might be more around managing the process, or the thinking aspect of how we do sprint planning, or idealization. So you will touch certain parts of digital wherever you inappropriately want to. And as you can see, the book is only 69% complete, 69 not being a fictional number. But part of it is, this was a placeholder to kind of say, okay, well, let's take these foundations, think, make, check, which have evolved also. I've just not updated the book because it tells you when it was last updated. I didn't want to update it until we've decided what it is. And I think now I call it think, evolve, learn is the methodology, which I kind of call now. But part of it is we kind of say these big, we put out to the table. Obviously, we will define this through debate over the next few months, but we'll take over, like, for instance, the first one, evolution over revolution. So we're kind of saying evolve a process instead of a big bang, start a new thing, do agile, do lean, do
commercialize the fuck out of it.
So think about evolving what you've got and don't throw away society. Obviously, the next one is not a nice one for you, which is engineering over agility. And remember,
I'm a software engineer, don't forget. So I actually sit there, I can actually play that one because I can go either end of the scale there.
Absolutely. But it also says at the bottom, which nobody reads on the other one, whilst the items we value the items on the right, we value the items on the left slightly more, right?
Yes.
So part of it is we do believe in agility and agile, but we also believe in engineering, which we believe has been lost, right?
And Dave even talked about that, didn't I? I mean, he talks about there needs to be a more professionalism, or somehow a body around looking after, technical IT practices.
Exactly. And then some of the other ones are just made up, maturity over mastery. So don't specialize in something, mature at something, and then choose where on the maturity level. Governance over ownership, allowing teams to be able to be self-governed, and not having product owners, for instance, all that kind of stuff. Value over product, what's the value of something delivered to the end customer, business value over creating a product which they may not use, like the 192 functions in Word, like mail merge that nobody ever uses, which is a product, but is not valuable for the people who are using it. Innovation over investment, all this bullshit that I made up 4 years ago when I was drunk, And, you know, we go and put that into the panel, and we kind of then let people, you know, say it's a load of shit. No, what we think is that it's not engineering over agility, it's engineering over, you know, non-structured processes or something. And we evolve it, and we think of it, we agree it, it goes into the digital manifesto. We have this map with all the signatories on it.
Yeah.
And then we kind of go, well, yeah, if you don't believe, you know, let's see if we can find somebody on this book. Oh, let's go over here. Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. But, you know, part of it is it means that you can, and I will paste this one in because I think it's quite a nice slide, is it means that it's got some credibility because some people representing some parts of some countries decided, oh, look, I'll even put us both in there just for sentiment. You know, believed that there was ways of doing things better, which of course there is, right? So, you know, this is the whole point why we did this, is to kind of say, let's have a look at how we can get people signatories to sign the Agile Manifesto. So this is the one-off event. This is the starting off, and it can be run by the QA lead if they wanted it to. Because
100%. It doesn't matter who that is.
Could be run by the PM lead. We don't care, right? It could be with all of them, right? We could stick them all down.
But again, we've also got the agility leadership group, you know, which is, you know, the
Agile lead.
Huh?
The Agile
exactly
lead.
But exactly, see, we can do it with the Agile lead as well. Get an entire partnership.
So, you know, part of this
is awesome. That's a great idea.
The deck which I put together is, you know, well, what is it, what we can provide? You know, I think the first thing is we would be stupid if we decided to sit out the Agile Manifesto in Turn 20, right? We already know Dave said he's doing an event on the 20th, which means a whole stack of other people will be doing something similar. Now, the good news is they will be all meeting up, and, you know, someone like Dave will say, no, don't call it Agile 2.0 because that's lame. And, you know, they'll all go through all that shit. And then eventually they'll say, actually, let's not call it Agile anymore. Let's call it Business Manifesto or some other term.
You know what I think that's going to be? And I was just going to say it if you weren't going to say that, but I think the de facto phrase going forward is going to be Business Manifesto. I think that is what anything that gets kind of created, co-created, whatever, in next year in February is going to end up as, for the next 20 years, the Business Manifesto.
So another domain for us to
100%.
I think the businessmanifesto.com will obviously be available because nobody would really buy that. It is available. Is it available without a dash? No, it's not. But anyway, so part of it is we'll register the Business Manifesto. We'll register the Technology Manifesto because it's technology as well. Technologymanifesto.com, which is available. And Technology Manifesto, one word, is also available, but I'm not registering it because it's gay. And I've already got the digital manifesto. But, you know, part of it is they'll come up with some other thing, which they're going to call it. And they may call it Spotify, right? I don't really give a shit what they want to call it, right? But then what will happen is everyone will go off and go, the pure agilists will go, yeah, well, we're not buying into your Spotify model. And then, you know, some businesses will say, oh, I love the Spotify model. It's the best thing since sliced bread. And it was a historical signing. And thanks to Dave Snowden, we're all better off. But at the same time, there'll be the digital manifesto, which or the 100%. Technology manifesto, or the business manifesto, right? Which we will put out on our social media. We've also had a whole stack of thought leaders come into it, but we're better organized than those guys because if you look at the quality of the Agile Manifesto website, it looks like no one's updated it since the HTML days. The only thing it has is how to translate it into different languages as separate URLs.
No one has changed it or tuned it or tweaked it. I mean, it quite literally is the same looking horrible diagram image thing of people standing up at some sort of whiteboard. It's been like that for the last nearly 20 years.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if you go to archive.org, you'll probably be able to see that it's not changed ever, right? But the whole point is that we're involved and committed into this, and it means that we can also bring something to the table as far as ideas, thought leadership, as well as monetization of these products.
So I am just about to share something with you a second. I'm just going to put this up because this is something which I did a while ago, and I'm just going to send you 2 pages from this.
Well, share your screen as well.
Yeah, well, hang on a sec. Let me just, if I send you it, then you can actually
put it on the screen,
use it as well, because there's a few funny things here which I want to share with you. So let me just save that. Let me just do this. I'll stick it in the chat. Hide slide. So I don't want to hide slide, but what I want to do is I want to delete that, and I want to copy this instead. So this is something that I use actually in the training I do when I'm doing business agility coaching and training. So I'm just going to send this to you, drop it in the chat. Let me find the chat window. So chat is there. Good. All right. I can go here. And this is something that, rightly or wrongly, doesn't make much difference. If I drop that into chat, there you go, boom. This is the organizational manifesto. So this is kind of my version of the business manifesto.
That's what I want to hear. Let me open it up.
Yeah, you can throw it up on screen as well if you want.
So business manifesto is available, added it to cart. Also technology manifesto.
So this is something that I didn't come up with the answers of this, by the way. This is something that came out of many sort of training sessions with many other people involved in previous courses I've done, organizations I've worked in. But what I'm saying here, when I do this in as 3 pages in a training presentation, is that the standard definition is not fit for purpose 20 years later. All right, because it talks, as we saw, it says ways of developing software. Then it talks about creating working software over comprehensive documentation. It talks about customer, right? And you might not be that necessarily that close to an actual customer. And it talks to responding to change. Now, change is an action that's already happened, which means you're now being reactionary to that. So then if you go to the next page, here we go. This is it. This is the organizational one, the business one. So we're actually we're uncovering better ways of working, not better ways of developing software, because then this applies to anyone in an organization. Look, now going back to the other one, because that's the flip I always do, going sort of back and forwards. You see, the previous one also misses out the word to do it. So it says we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. That's an actual, again, a command action rather than helping others to do it, which softens it. Then, because you can apply this now to an organization, rather than creating working software over comprehensive documentation, guess what? Wherever you are in an organization, you have a consumable solution. And the same thing then next with, instead of customer collaboration, well, it's a stakeholder. You may not necessarily be that close if you're in a finance team or a sales team or, I don't know, some other legal team. You might not necessarily be that close to a customer. And therefore, you will have stakeholders in your organization, but you're not necessarily going to be that close. And then rather than responding to change, ergo change has happened, you now need to respond to it in a reactionary way. Now we're saying responding to feedback. Well, you've been part of that feedback process through a retro or something like that, which means it's been proactive instead, and it's changing the thinking. And then the final one, which the PMIDA created, which was transparency over false predictability. So the same, that is why there's value on the items on the left, on the right, we value the items on the left more. And then lastly, is the manifesto for half-assed software and agile development. There you go. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this came up several years ago, and I love this, where it says, individuals and actions over process and tools, and we have mandatory processes and tools to control how those individuals, we prefer the term resources, interact. working software, as long as that software is comprehensively documented, customer collaboration within the boundaries of strict contracts, of course, and subject to rigorous change control, and responding to change, provided a detailed plans in place to respond to the change, and it's followed precisely. That is, while the items on the left sound nice, in theory, we're an enterprise company and there's no way we're letting go of the items on the right. And that's reality, right? When I join an organization to help them through a transformation or a change, or come in and as a technology leader or an agile leader, it's usually because of that atypicalness that's there on that page, which is why the change needs to happen, because they're in that rut. So that is very cool. So that is, as I said, it's not me, but it's certainly through a lot of other people and a lot of thought leaders, how we've evolved the thinking from the software Agile Manifesto to the second page there, where we've changed the red to the inverted it and changed the red to the yellow, and how that is actually the business agility manifesto and how it applies a lot easier to organizations. And I get a lot of people coming and talking to me after the workshops from different parts of organizations who have got no awareness of what agile actually means to them. And so again, it's about reframing it from moving anything from agile, just simply agility, getting agility, better thinking, better ways of working, better processes, and that's agility, rather than simply thinking it's under this moniker of agile. So there we go. That is Organizational Agility Manifesto.
So on the Agile Manifesto, so for some unknown reason, and don't ask me why, leanpub/Agile Manifesto isn't being used.
What?
Apparently, people haven't been bothered to actually write anything since it started. So what my suggestion is to add this to the Agile Manifesto placeholder page. I'll redirect businessmanifesto.com to this and say, this is a working document, which is, which...
And yeah, it's not created by one single person. I mean, there's a lot of people over the years who have put that thought in there, but there's a lot of thought leaders in the business agility space who have come along and started thinking about creating this.
So I'm going to call it Organizational Agility Manifesto. I'm going to make you the owner of it, so you just need to sign up to leanpub.com. So
okay. Shall I do it now?
Yeah.
Leanpub.com.
Yeah, it's what everyone uses if they want to write a book without having to actually do anything.
Okay, let me just do that a sec. Let me sign up on this and I'll tell you who and what and where. So where the hell do I sign up? Under the hamburger, sign up. Okay, here we go. Sign up. Giles, Lindsay, Giles at Agile Delta Consulting.com. And then right, I am in. I am done.
Excellent. Right. So what's your username?
It's Agile Delta. But I'm in there as Giles Lindsay as well, so I don't know if that actually works or helps or does whatever.
Agile Delta.
Hopefully that will come up, but there we go. So I'm in. John Lewis has just sent me an email.
Yep, Giles, you are now a contributor to this book.
Whee!
The Organization Agility Manifesto, which is leanpub.com/Agile Manifesto.
There we go. Let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this. leanpub.com/Agile.
Needs a logo.
Yeah, we can sort that. Someone on Fiverr can do that.
I need to switch the author actually, because I don't want to be the author. Just got you there as contributor.
So, yeah, so hang on a second. So, okay, so I'm there about the contributor. Gotcha. Okay, so that's good. So that's down below the page. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So anyway, so I'll redirect that from business agility. I'll include this as a kind of a placeholder into here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I thought I'd share those pages, because of course it's showing how that thinking has evolved and how there are people who've been thinking this way for, some time in the last couple of years. And it's certainly been, something to I wanted to share with you guys.
So what I'll do is I'll send out this deck to all of us once I've added in your slide anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I genuinely think, obviously Paul can put the one slide at the start of this and explain what it actually means, because I'm no good with that. But from a kind of a standard viewpoint of, there's this big thing which we don't think we can do today, right? But something like the Institute of Business Technology and Leadership would be something that would be quite nice to have.
Oh, it'd be brilliant. No, not more than quite nice to have. It would be brilliant.
But what we do believe in is the technology leadership, and part of that is the Technology Leadership Forum, the Technology Leadership Summit, which I think registered that one as well. I think we just Technology Leadership Summit, and that builds on the Technology Leadership Forum, which is Paul's baby. Technology Leadership Summit, which is our baby, which is the flagship event. And then smaller events, which are technology leadership events, right? Which include the signing of the digital manifesto, which could turn into the business manifesto or the technology manifesto, depending on where people believe it should go.
It should go, 100%.
And that will become a free ebook, which will evolve the thoughts, of people within the industry. And here's an example of one that's already been done for Digital Manifesto. Another one that's been done for the Organizational Agile Manifesto, Agility Manifesto, right?
Perfect.
Part of it is, there's artifacts there. I think it's all valuable. Now, the viewpoint then kind of goes is, if they say no, we just don't have enough time, or B, we just want it to be the QA lead one, and we don't really want a signing of a manifesto, we would just want the actual agile one. Wait a second, I'm getting a random phone number coming through. Hello?
Yeah, hi there. Is it possible to speak to Jonathan Wright, please?
Yeah, speaking.
Jonathan, hi. Sorry, it's Tony Samuel calling from a company called SecurityClearedJobs.com.
Yeah, I'm just on a conference call with somebody else at the moment. I'm really sorry. Fuck my life.
Did he cut off?
He cut me off. That's it. He's blocked now. Don't call me twice and then expect me to
be there to speak to you immediately. Wow, that's just bonkers.
I get loads of these. It really pisses me off, because the thing is, when I'm helpful with them, they're just dicks. So it's just like, anyway. So part of it is, if they don't think they can do it, or they want it to just be QA lead, then we just go off and do it, right? We just
100%.
We don't have to call it.
We don't need the bureaucracy and the nightmare if that's going to limit us doing this.
And I think, so then it kind of comes in. So for the signing of the digital manifesto, of course, we can't have advertisers like Micro Focus on it. It has to be impartial. It has to be free.
Yeah,
it has
100%.
to be, something people can collaborate to and contribute to, and no cost associated with it. If they want to make a donation to the Digital Manifesto Guild, they can pay a bigger price, but otherwise it's going to cost you nothing.
Correct.
And if and then of course, we can put people on here who are going to contribute and want to, leave their mark. And then part of it is, out of the back of that, we offer some of the places to the QA lead guild community, or agile community, or project manager community as free. So they get there was 30 people, they could continue the conversation on one of those platforms.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, as we go along, we then open up Technology Leadership Forum, we open up Technology Leadership Summit and Technology Leadership events, and they all become sponsored and free. And also, so we can always say it's free for life on the bottom tier. And then if you want the professional, or, you know, they want the extra one, which gives you access to more people and all that other stuff, then there's a charge associated with it, which is part of, because nobody complains at the BCS for taking 320 quid off them a year, right? Because they're an institute, right? You becoming part of the institute, and if that you get emails every month telling you nothing, and used to be a free magazine, which sucks. So, you know, part of it is, you know, people are happy to pay $300 to an institute. That's all. We set everything up, and we say, well, we're going to form an institute of technology. Founding members get a lifetime cost if you want to sign up for $299. If not, then it's a 99 quid a year or 200 quid a year.
Yeah.
And you get the BTL after your name, which doesn't mean anything.
No, but still, I really like it. And can I say, I mean, wow, the involvement. I mean, not alone just today in this session alone, where we've started thinking more, but how we've ended up and how you guys have ended up with this idea for that event on early Feb as well is brilliant. I love this. This for me is I think the goal, because everything else that we do supports this. You know, the IBTL, it becomes a de facto sponsor of the Technology Leadership Summit as well. You know, so again, who are they? How do I find out about who they are? And that's the type of help that I'm needing in industry right now. How the hell do I find out about this? But then there's also the CMI, you know, the Chartered Management Institute as well. Somehow finding if we can get them to sponsor the BCS PMI, right? Well, that's who I'm in with. You know, I'm there this afternoon doing that massive event to 250 PMI people later today, and it's an event which I've been looking forward to for months and months and months, and it's coming along this afternoon. And that's the type of group of people that we should be talking to, because it's these guys who've actually helped being part of the, I'll show it in there, there's the link. It's these guys who have been part of the sort of the evolution of that organizational agility manifesto as well, the PMI. So, I'm certainly able to go and have a conversation with them. Mark, who's the guy who created Disciplined Agile, who's one of the big thought leaders, the big guns out there, he was my mentor sort of back in 2013, 2014. And it's him who I'm doing this event this afternoon with. The guy who created Disciplined Agile and half the books I've got up on the shelf up there, and me, just some bloke in London, are going to end up doing this panel event for 60, 90 minutes, whatever it is, this afternoon, to 250 people from the PMI. And the great thing is, because they've already paid up, they get an event like, I just pro bono, I'm not getting anything for doing it. It's for the fact that I'm going to get, it's brand awareness as well for me, but I get to talk to 250 thought leaders at the PMI who have already paid their subscription for a year, and get to listen to some bloke like me who they like a good English accent over in America mainly, and get to hear me rambling on about shit.
And also asking for a cup of tea or whatever else they enjoy.
Yes, I mean, if I'm going to sit there with a tea and a saucer, a cup and a saucer, and sort of sit there sipping it as we do this, yeah.
And people have like loads of really good comments saying things like, "I love your accent." And
well, or as my favourite one ever, which was in a Dairy Queen in Oregon, or it was either Oregon or Washington State. Was walked in, and obviously after a blizzard, and the woman turned around and went, "Geez, your accent's cute."
Yeah, I do miss that about the States. But yeah, so PMI, I think it's always worth. One of the things I do at the moment is I take screenshots of all the attendee lists, just so that if I ever got bored, I could go off and add those people on LinkedIn, and then I can spam them, right? Yeah. But part of what I'd say is we're working on our list going forwards, and also thinking about who we would want at that event, like the Snowdens, like whoever else it is. Then I think we need to start thinking about that, and maybe even set up a committee in, just as a, kind of it doesn't need to be the digital manifesto. It could be we're doing a roundtable on the 11th or up to 11th to the 13th, because I think we need to find out when Dave Snowden and stuff's doing his. If they're doing an event on the 11th, then we might be better off doing the 12th or the 13th.
Correct.
Always a good one, because it's unlucky for some, right? So
13th is a Saturday.
Well, even better, because Saturdays are, days where people contribute their own time, don't they?
Yeah.
Whereas, in the week, it might be a bit of a pain to get to. But we'll see. We could do 11th, 12th, 13th once we find out what's coming up what the other thought leaders are doing. And yeah, so we'll start thinking about what that would look like and who we would hit for that. I've got obviously all the people who turned up to the Unicom event. I've got all their emails and stuff like that. So we, do it. But also the thing, what I was going to say is the BCS committee, obviously I sit on that. Yeah. They've also committed to be a sponsor for this event, which is already done, obviously a professional sponsor. So if you today want to say, look, the BCS is sponsoring an event we're doing on the signing of the Agile Manifesto, we're going to get a whole stack of thought leaders to do a roundtable around how they think the Agile Manifesto has changed. We're going to present our organizational agility manifesto tweaks, which, for people to talk about and improve on. It'd be great to have the PMI or something sponsoring, being a professional sponsor. It won't cost you anything.
And then precisely
dump them in. We'll dump in the Institute of Business Technology and Leadership, and people will genuinely think it's one of those big institutes. What's legit?
The obvious one I'm missing, right? Which is the one that I'm, was invested as president last month, the Business Agility Institute. That's another one, right? And my mate Evan, who's the CEO based out in Delaware or wherever he is, and the fact that there are now, I think, globally 46 countrywide chapters now of the Business Agility Institute. The membership is in not as big as the millions the PMI have, but its membership is probably in the tens, if not early 100s of thousands, members globally. They've recently sort of even opened up chapters in Peru and Portugal and Brazil and other places like that as well. I know they've got them in Sweden and Germany. We've recently created the one here in the UK. So yeah, the Business Agility Institute is another one that we should be certainly making sure Evan is the one of the guys turning up to this event, because he's been a major thought leader in this for many years.
Yeah. I might even drop this diagram in, because this is the chapters we have for Vivid, right?
Yeah,
which is still fairly comprehensive, right?
Oh, it's massive. I mean, look at that. That's just insane.
So, if we did, but between you and me, I think, so Vivid are on their way out, right? They're a non-for-profit, which can't operate as a non-for-profit with staff, right? They're just going to run out of money. And they've been, in the old days, they used to run all the HP Micro Focus conferences, right? So they used to make millions a year, but now they don't. So, I think they'll be gone April, May next year. They'll just run out of money, which means either this gets scaled back to bare bones, which is just, it doesn't have all these expensive platforms which it runs on, and the staff will get sacked. Yeah. Or alternatively, it closes, which is obviously, as a charity, it has to close. It's, again, Delaware kind of equivalent company would close eventually. But if that happens, then potentially the user base needs to find a home. And if the user base needs to find a home, we can move that membership over to maybe a business institution.
Brilliant. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
But don't worry, we'll be paid by them. But they've got enough money, but they burn about 60K a month just on staff. And it's not sensible having 5 full-time staff, running for a company that which is a non-for-profit. They haven't got their ideas up. And every year they get you know, 200 grand or whatever from Micro Focus, that money's going to stop. This year. And you know, they can't do it just by running the little things that they do, like little webinars and stuff. They just don't make the money. And even a big event like what we run, you know, 20 grand, even if 24 grand profit, that's not going to help 60 grand run costs for your staff, is it? Because it's going to outweigh it. So you need to be running big events to be making that kind of money. And unfortunately, there just isn't the scope for that at the moment. You know, and if there is, you know, that's the problem. Like literally yesterday, I was on the board call and they were like, yeah, Jonathan, you go off and, you know, speak to all the, you know, all the customers and find us loads of money. I was like, well, if I'm going to do that for an event, I'm doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for charity. As much as, you know, I literally spend 8-9 hours a week doing stuff for these guys. It's like, I can't, you know, that's
a lot of time. That's a lot of effort. Yeah.
So, you know, it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, so I think, you know, I think this could be the other thing, is that these guys need a home, and maybe Vivid rebrands under our institute and lets people takes on that database, because, you know, I've got that database anyway. It's not like I haven't already got it. The advantage of being the president is I get access to everything, right? So
perfect.
So yeah, I think there's something there which we can think about.
Do you know what? You know, and hopefully, Paul, you're enjoying this when you get to watch it back. We get one more of these this year next week, which I think is the 18th or something. And I tell you what, it would be awesome when you've got that final, you know, cut of that deck put together to send that out, because that's going to give me the next week just to think about it, think about some of the people who I would be sort of saying we should be going after for being part of the events in February, you know, and it's going to certainly help me go forward with this. So let's get that final version
before Christmas.
Yeah, 100%. And then we've got the break as well to think about this stuff for them before we catch up in the new year.
Yeah, and then we need to pull the trigger on this stuff, whether it's going to be done the QA lead, which in all fairness for that first event, because it's a non-for-profit event, we could probably just do it ourselves.
Correct.
You know, it doesn't
I was just thinking, you know, again, if there's something that would slow us down because of some level of bureaucracy or whatever, fuck it, just crack on and do it.
I think we have to. And I know even the comment came out, well, you know, the manifesto's been signed for that entire year. I think, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, I think, you know, nothing says historical date like hitting the historical date. And, correct, you know, it gives us something to aim for. I think it's completely in our control. We need to start seeding it. So if you can do your institutes, obviously I've got the BCS, we can already start adding those in. And
what I want to do though is, I mean, I certainly, when you've got the deck, the finished article later today, whenever.
Yeah, I'm just going to share it. So
yes, share it, because I actually want to use it as a way. If I'm having a conversation with Mark Lines at PMI, if I'm wanting to talk to Sharon at CMI, if I, you know, whoever are my, you know, my main go-to people when I talk to these guys, I want to throw up the deck. I actually want to show the thought that's gone into this. I want to show that level, you know, the brilliant graphics, the links we're thinking about, you know, all of those domains and URLs, the book. So even if you've got a cut of that book page, that Lean Pub to go in the deck as well, and the new organizational one, it's just actually showing our intent to actually get this shit done, you know, next February, and then also sharing with them the idea of the, you know, the institute as well, and what that looks like.
Yep, no problems. Well, it'll be done. It'll be done within the next hour or so anyway. So let me do it and I'll send it over to you, and I'll send just a OneDrive link, and then we can edit it and pull down the latest version.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, actually it's already on OneDrive. Right. Is the version that I'm working on at the moment. So I'll make it so you can edit it and pull it down at any time, and I'll just paste it into the chat now. Anyway, I better go.
Me too.
And
that's awesome. That's absolutely an awesome session.
Cool. All right, the link's there, and I will send out a proper full version of it to Paul and everything in the next hour or something.
Done. I'm just gonna see if it's loading up. Good. And if I've got to join and put a request for permission or whatever.
No, I'll let you edit it at the same time. It's fine.
Brilliant. All right, man.
All right. Nice one.
Take it easy. See you soon.
Have a good weekend.
You too, buddy. See you later.